I think we're live.
We're good? Okay. Hi, everyone. So welcome to the first OmiseGO Town Hall, which is going to be the first of the monthly town halls that we'll be doing. And the objective of this is to provide more regular updates to the community on our development progress. We'll switch up the contents from town hall to town hall so that you get to meet the different team members working on different aspects and also get updates on the various things that we're working on. So today I have with me Jeremy Lamb, who is our product lead and also coordinating the technical development across the various teams. I also have Kevin Zhu calling in from San Francisco, and he's leading our community growth efforts. So before we dive in and have Jeremy and Kevin talk to you about what we're actually up to right now, I wanted to take a step back and reflect on what was achieved in 2017. This is the next slide.
It's good.
Okay. So towards the end of 2017, as you recall, we released the SDK, which is a closed beta. And from that, we had over 100 submissions to get access to it. And we selected a handful of partners and projects to test this. The other big achievement that we made was the minimum viable plasma written by David Knott was released. And this was done in conjunction with Ethereum researchers. We also worked to finish the design of the Decentralized Exchange, which is currently being internally reviewed and critiqued by various experts and our advisors. So we saw 2017 as the year that we laid the foundations to then we can accelerate development and product shipment in 2018. We also, next slide. We also focused a ton of our effort on staffing up. Okay? As you know, OmiseGO is a part of Omise Holding subsidiary. We have Jen and Donnie, the co-founders, running the holding level. Myself, I'm managing the OmiseGO side. We also have a very dynamic and fun and interesting team behind us. So our engineering team and our design team is distributed all over the world. We have a big chunk concentrated in Bangkok. We also have people working in Warsaw, as well as in the US. Aside from the hardcore software engineering team, we also have a plasma research team, which is now in the US. And as you know, OmiseGO is an open network, right? So we have to get really creative in terms of what type of products we're going to be building on top of the network. And so we have Jeremy, Kevin, and Steven working on product R&D. So what they're doing is really interesting, is they're going out and they're saying, okay, what applications should be tested on this? What partners should we bring in? How do we integrate with some of the existing solutions and make things more seamless? We also have a partnership and strategy team that's located in Tokyo and Thailand. And we're also growing presence in North America. Next. We, of course, also have a marketing and community management team that has been interacting with the community. You'll see a lot more of them as we go into the future. We also have a finance and compliance team that focuses on both local and regional compliance. And then, of course, we have our operations team and also a team that is focusing on engaging with the wider blockchain community. Lastly, we have our advisors who have been very much engaged in giving us really great input and critique in the different technical aspects of the development. So looking over towards 2018, our goals are simple but big. So we want to get the OmiseGO SDK and the DEX into the hand of our customers. And what that means is to deliver the open source white label SDK, as well as launching the DEX, which the public can participate in staking in. So now I'll hand that over actually to Jeremy and then Kevin to talk more about those two goals and what it actually means in terms of milestones.
Jeremy, I think you're muted.
Thanks, Kevin. I was just saying to myself that I'm very thankful for the work that you've done on the town hall. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes in getting this to the state that we're in. So thank you very much. And so the first thing that I'd like to tell everyone is that from now forwards, you can look forward to hearing from me on a monthly basis. And at the end of every month, I'll be writing a Medium blog post and talking about these three main streams that I'll talk to you today. And this will come every month at the last week of the month. So as Dunsa mentioned, regarding the SDK, we've released the SDK to a closed beta program. It is still open for applications. So if you are a keen developer or someone that's involved in open source, we'd really like to hear from you. So please apply, and we'd like to hear from you there. We are working towards the open beta, and we're planning to release that at the end of February. So the SDK team has been really busy with that and getting it ready for that. The things that we are actively developing in the SDK are the admin panel and performance improvements. So these are things that we hope to see in the open beta when we do get it into your hands here. So just to talk about that a little bit, the admin panel is for merchants or for providers who run wallets to be able to easily manage the users of their wallets. So this is a huge improvement of life for administration, for administrators. The main feedback, of course, that is common, I would say, is that we need to improve our documentation. So we're working really hard on that, so that it'll be easier to onboard and to get started with the SDK. The one thing that we will continue to work on now and in the future is demo applications for the SDK. So how it would be best to use the SDK for a wallet, how the payment mechanisms could be integrated into an online website, for example, as well. On to the next stream, so the DEX, or the Decentralized Exchange itself. So the blockchain itself is, you could see, is one component, and it's the underlying foundation on which the exchange is built. And you haven't really heard very much about the DEX, or the Decentralized Exchange, until now. So I'm really pleased to be able to talk about it a little bit. So internally, we've completed a milestone called internal release. And this is like an MVP to actually show that the blockchain is operating and is able to issue tokens and is able to stand up. We're moving into a new phase and a new milestone where we wish to run an internal testnet. So what essentially this means is that inside OmiseGO, across different geographies, we will be starting up different nodes and running and connecting our nodes for our blockchain to the Ethereum testnet itself. So this is really in preparation to understand and to test our blockchain against a real life scenario rather than something that is just inside a internal server. You would have heard recently from Althea on a couple of blog posts about staking, and that's really great because it's been done in coordination with the staking contract work that we've been working on. So the staking contract is a smart contract written on Ethereum that is the basis for everyone who holds OMG tokens to be able to deposit into the contract and then earn network fees that are generated on the OMG network. We do hear a lot about concerns from the public about fees, what happens if whales have control over fees, what's going to be the minimum fee that is set for transactions. And we'd just like everyone to know that this is something that we're really aware of and working to resolve and to research and to make sure that the network is open and fair and available to everyone, and it's not just whales that can benefit. And that falls under this bullet point of crypto economic incentives. So there's a lot of work that we're putting into that. And naturally, we are working very hard to make sure that everything that we build integrates well into Ethereum and is safe and secure as well. So going through internal audits for the smart contract, checking the edge cases of what might happen during staking or during transactions on our network. So the next part of our build process is the decentralized exchange itself. And that design has been completed, and we are starting to actually build upon our blockchain, the decentralized exchange itself. And it's also important here to mention that we're taking a step back and looking at the actual mechanism design for them, for the decentralized exchange as well. So decentralized exchanges, they work differently to centralized exchanges the way that we see them now. So it's important to have a look from an outside view and check that the market model makes sense. So what the market model is here is essentially it's a way of looking at the parameters of an exchange and making sure that those parameters are set in a way that we would like. So these parameters are things such as liquidity. Liquidity is the amount of orders and volume of orders on the decentralized exchange, and price discovery. So price discovery means if I open up the decentralized exchange, am I able to see what the best price is for the order that I wish to fill? And this is what we're working on when we talk about this market model validation. On the Plasma side, it's really exciting. So Plasma is our scaling solution that we're working on very closely with our advisors. And I think it's important to think about OmiseGO and Plasma and the DEX that we're building as not only a DEX. So Plasma is a means of scaling the entire Ethereum ecosystem, and that's why we want to work very closely with everyone in the ecosystem. Plasma adds interoperability throughout Ethereum, but also outside of Ethereum as well. So to blockchains such as Bitcoin or blockchains that are similar to Bitcoin. So this connects Ethereum to the wider blockchain world as well. And the basis for Plasma is that it should be open to the world and available to the world so that there is no barriers to entry apart from access to the internet. And we just wanted to make it clear that this is for everyone to use, and we need your help too. So there's so much to do. And so do join in on the conversation, help out with the other projects that are working on Plasma, or even come and have a look at what we're doing. We'd be most happy to have you. The background to what we see now about the Plasma MVP, so MVP is minimal viable plasma, and that's something that you would have heard of recently from Vitalik and also from David, is that late last year, Vitalik, Joseph Karl, and David, they went on a short retreat, and in that short amount of time, they were able to hash out what is now the minimum amount of technical pieces that are required to have Plasma running. And as you can see, with this defined, everyone will be able to bring Plasma to life much earlier than was previously expected. And so our efforts are well underway. David's been making great progress on minimal viable Plasma. The code is available now on GitHub, and David's also set up a Gitter for everyone that is interested in talking about implementation of MVP. So just a short summary of what MVP actually does have inside of it. So MVP is a single child chain that's connected to Ethereum, and it uses Ethereum for ultimate safety. So if something goes wrong on the Plasma chain, then it's expected that all the accounts exit and take out their funds from the child chain and move back to Ethereum. And so this child chain can assist and withdrawals, and then, of course, any other applications that may be built upon this chain. So we are really excited about what we're building across all three streams. You'll hear much more about our development efforts in the coming months and the other blog posts that we'll be posting. So now it's over to Kevin to talk a little bit about Biz Dev and Marketing.
Thank you, Jeremy. Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin Xu. I am the new head of growth based out of San Francisco, and I work very closely with Jeremy and Vansa on the product and business side of things. I hope you're as excited as I am about all the things that are coming up on the SDK front, DEX front, and the Plasma front. I know you will be very, very excited in the coming months. So in order to really achieve our vision of unbanking the banked, we need everything that Jeremy just discussed, but we also need to develop the ecosystem of partners, of merchants, of banks, and so forth. So that will be a major goal for 2018. One of the things is we want to increase adoption of the OmiseGO SDK with leading merchants, with developers, with our users. That is currently what our biz dev and sales team is working on. We also want to continue the discussions we've already been having with strategic partners in order to issue fiat-backed tokens and also cash-in, cash-out points. We had discussed this on a high level in a recent blog post back in December. And essentially, most of these discussions are still under NDA. But for the most part, on a high level, we are talking with certain banks, with certain merchants and hardware partners to discuss integrations with our OmiseGO DEX to really fulfill the vision of unbanking the banked. For 2018, we also are working on developing the revenue model for the Omise payment gateway business. The OmiseGO DEX is you can be integrated with anyone, but we are building the premier SDK for it and working on a revenue model for the merchants that we choose to onboard. Regarding the marketing side of things, we are also working on a brand new website at omisego.network. The version 2.0 right now is going to be rolled out in several stages. The first, which should be coming out in the next few weeks, is more or less a redesign of the current content, and it will be adding a short FAQ and the rest of our team that you saw in a previous slide. And then we will also be working on a community hub. Essentially, currently, all our information it feels scattered everywhere. There's some information that's on Reddit, some information that's on our Twitter, and our Rocket Chat. And essentially, this kind of becomes the premier place where people can check on what we're working on. Also, an information center. Althea and Thomas have been working on a guide, so the official guide for OmiseGO, and that should be coming out along with other support and questions that you guys have been asking will be filled out and stored on the information center. And the biggest piece of all, which is the developer portal. So as we work on open sourcing and writing documentation for our various code repos, it will be primarily hosted on the developer portal as kind of like the getting started page where you'll find onboarding, where you'll find demo applications, and so forth. Something else we're working on is the OmiseGO merchandise store. So if you want some swag, that will be coming to you shortly as well. And expect many, many more meetups and conferences where we'll be speaking and maybe even hosting. And with that, that concludes the update part of the town hall. So on to the Q&A. Awesome. So thank you everyone for asking your questions on Reddit. We have selected a few that had a high number of votes in this session that covers everything from staking and plasma as well as business and marketing. So one of the first questions is, OMG is being built for the entire world. What is your target market in the near future, and what are the partnerships and marketing plans? So the immediate market are the countries where Omise payment gateway currently operates in, but our plans are much bigger. Our target market is for the entire world. We have a global solution that does not limit ourselves to any one geographical region. On the partnerships front, like I said earlier, we are working on talking with several partners, everywhere from banks and merchants, to integrate and fulfill the vision for the DEX. There was another question about, can any developers build apps using the OMG SDK and network, or is it restricted to regional licensed wallet holders? What about the legal implications of different jurisdictions? So the thing about this is that anyone, anywhere can build an app for any reason. The OMG network is a completely public blockchain designed to scale the Ethereum mainnet. It's no less permissionless than Bitcoin or Ethereum, and it's built to be decentralized and censorship resistant so that power and control cannot be misused to perform attacks on the network. So there's no permission from OmiseGO necessary to deploy dApps or perform these transactions. That said, OmiseGO will provide commercial support and services to clients that comply with the regulatory requirements that apply to their projects in the jurisdiction that's relevant.
Actually, one thing to add as well, Kevin, is the licensing on the SDK itself is also open source. So we are going to be releasing both the SDK and the blockchain under Apache 2.0. So there's, in terms of licensing and having to pay a royalty to use the software that we're developing, there's nothing to pay. It's available for everyone to use.
I will pick the next question. So the next question that we have was about the feedback of the Beta Sdk. So specifically the question was, what has been the feedback, and also what use cases were they proposing? This is the submitters to get access to the SDK, the closed beta. So as mentioned, we got over 100 applicants. We selected a handful of strategic partners to give access to. We're continuing to accept applicants as well, so please do reach out if you're interested. The feedback so far, I mean, on our side has been really helpful. I think the biggest recommendation is that we need to further improve the documentation, and that will help with the onboarding process, as well as it will reduce the need for developer support. So we're taking that feedback to heart. Thank you. And we're planning to release the open beta later in February. So even at that stage, we'll also be seeking feedback from people. So please do reach back out. Some of the proposed use cases we had covered stored values like loyalty programs, as well as in-game tokenization. We also saw a couple of requests on lifestyle wallet apps, as well as payments. And the really cool thing was the submission came from all over the world. I think we had over like 24 countries. So it's very exciting to see. Yeah, so thank you.
I'll handle the next question. The next question was, can you comment on how OmiseGO will be providing liquidity on the network? For example, if I'm a user who wants to transfer Thai baht to my friend in Singapore who wants to receive Singapore dollars, how will liquidity be provided to facilitate such an exchange? So the one thing to keep in mind here is that OmiseGO is building the network or the venue that facilitates the exchange and facilitates the liquidity to be formed on that venue. So we aren't necessarily going to be a liquidity provider ourselves, but that doesn't preclude us from being one, because the OmiseGO, because the OMG network is open, the liquidity gets formed through anyone that actually wishes to place orders on the order book. So one way that we can see this is that the orders or the liquidity could be provided by an agent that actually does work in traditional FX markets, or it could even be just a person. So it could be someone in Singapore that just wants to receive some Thai baht and is willing to sell a little bit of Singapore dollars, and that person can provide liquidity on the OMG network. And so saying that, of course, we want to ensure that there is lots of liquidity on our decentralized exchange. So there's two main avenues here. The first is to actually have interoperability. So interoperability is a big thing, such that we have tokens of value that can be exchanged and easily exchanged on the decentralized exchange. But also more traditionally, we are reaching out and looking for potential partners that can provide liquidity and who can market make on the decentralized exchange. So if you are potentially one of these partners or know of one, do let us know. Please reach out.
Next one. Should we move towards staking? We had a couple questions about staking. Might be a fun one. So we're, just for reference, we're pasting the link of the two blog that was written by Althea, titled OMG Network Validation, into the description box below. So you should be able to get access to that pretty easily. The most top voted question related to staking was, what is the minimum amount of OMG needed to stake? So currently, we don't set a minimum or maximum number of token. However, there will be a maximum number of validators allowed. And this is, I'm speaking specifically on the Honte version of the product, the blockchain. So at the moment, this is what we're going with. It may change in the future as development progresses. So with the current situation, what that means is that there's the top X stakers will be selected as validators. And the reason that we're doing this is because we wanted to keep the network fast and also reduce the amount of messages. But for people who hold smaller amount of tokens, our team is working really hard to identify partners to then launch staking pools. So at the end of the day, we're making this as inclusive as possible, and we're working on solutions around it.
And keeping on the same vein, I guess, about staking, the next question here is about what about currencies and what fees will be paid out in. So what currency will fees be paid out in? And so the quick answer here is that there's no one particular currency. Validators will be allowed to accept fees in any token that they wish. This is a configuration and the ability of the validator to do so. But it's also important here to mention that we'll be setting some good defaults as a basis. So we will make sure that the validators must accept the token that has good liquidity, and they will accept that as a fee. So there's concerns that a low liquidity token might be accepted. So specifically, OmiseGO would be accepted, and that would reduce the available supply of OMGs. So whilst validators will be able to potentially accept OMG tokens, they must accept other tokens as well that has good liquidity. The second part that I can answer on that question is how frequently will fees be paid out? I'm sorry, before I move on to that part, the second part to that answer is what currency will fees be paid out in? And fees will be paid in the same token that they were accumulated in the first place. So then validators will then have the option to exchange those fee tokens to the currency of their choice on the DEX. And with respect to when the fees can be taken out, validators accumulate fees over the period of a staking period. So the staking period is an amount of time that hasn't been set yet. And after the end of that period of time, then stakers and can set a withdrawal for that fee, and they have to wait a withdrawal period before they can access those funds.
Cool. So there were also two questions related to hacking or hiccups related to staking. People really don't want to lose their tokens, and I understand that feeling. So the first question is, can someone hack my computer or my node in order to purposely burn up all my stakes? So first of all, try not to get hacked. That's bad for various reasons, and especially phishing attempts. Never give anybody your private key. So stakes are safe in the staking contract in Ethereum, so they can't directly steal them if they just get hacked your computer. But if your computer gets hacked, the validator software could be turned off. So then you would lose potential fees there. The hacker can also cause misbehavior of the validation of the blocks. So then you could be slashed and potentially lose stakes for improper validation. There was another question that's, as I travel 90% of the month, will there be an easy way for me to stake without having to potentially teach my wife back home what to do in case of a power outage, internet outage, hiccups, etc.? And will there be any risk to my staked OMG in any type of staking scenario? If you're running your own validator, you must ensure that it always has an internet connection and it stays running. So a potential for fix for that is to use a VPS so that you can just check on it from wherever you're traveling to. There were two questions that were not answered in the blog post that Jeremy will take over now.
Thanks, Kevin. So
again, you can check the blog post. I think it's blog post in the description box below. It is super, super informative.
Thanks, Kevin. Okay, so this first question is, I understand that tokens can be taken off for incorrect validation during staking. Under what circumstances could this happen? How do we avoid this happening? So in a general sense, validators, if they don't do their job properly, their tokens or the fees that validators earn can get slashed. So slashed means taken away. And one example of this is a little bit like this. So talking about Alice as an actor, she spends some tokens and then provides an invalid signature. So the signature doesn't match the private key. And so if you are running standard validator software and you haven't made any changes or any alterations, then there really isn't anything to be done because our software or the network software will pick that up and invalid transactions won't be accepted. If you were to do to the software, the validator software, that might change some of the validation rules, then potentially if those changes puts invalid transactions into a block, then you could be slashed under those conditions. So it's advisable to run standard software. In fact, there's really not that much benefit to do so otherwise. The next question is, what are the protections against whale setting 0.00 lots of zeros, 1% TX fees, and validating all of the transactions? So I kind of mentioned this before, and this just goes back to the point that we are aware of these different ways that that whales or maybe bad actors might try to game the system. So we're really working really hard to set some good defaults especially with respect to minimum fees and what tokens may be used for transaction fees as well. So we're certainly aware of these kinds of issues, and thanks for bringing those kinds of issues up to us. There have been some other questions as well about Plasma, so I'm happy to move on to those ones. The first question is there a contingency plan in place if Plasma doesn't work out? And well, really, we're fully committed to Plasma, as you can see, so there really isn't a contingency plan at this stage. We don't think it's necessary. We've got a lot of support from our advisors. As you heard, David spends time with our advisors working on Plasma and has been working on MVP Plasma. And yeah,
actually,
we've got to
jump
keep on.
in there and
Oh,
also
yes.
just mention that David has a talk from Berlin from last week that we'll add the link as well into the description box, and it was a very informative talk. So if you have some time, please check that out as well.
Yes, please do. Thanks, Mansa. The second part to the Plasma question, or the second question, is how big is the development gap between minimal viable Plasma and full Plasma? So there's obviously a lot of work to be done, and we'd love your help to get to Plasma. The development process from MVP to say full Plasma isn't like a quantum jump. It's an iterative process. So as we move on in the development cycle, we'll iteratively add on more features and things like safety. We'll add on. We'll add child chains to Plasma, and so it's really hard to gauge what the amount of work is, but we're certainly taking it one step at a time, and we've got great support from our advisors on that. Looks like there's more questions about Plasma as well, so I'll just jump on to the next one. It has often been stated that Plasma will enable the OMG network to process 1 million transactions per second. I'd be interested to know how long each of these individual transfers is expected to take. Is every transaction instantaneous, or are there delays in each transaction actually being processed on the network? So that's a really good question. And another way of phrasing it is that is asking what is the latency between when a transaction is submitted on the OMG network and when it's finalized. And the large determining factor for this is the block time for the chain in question. And so we're talking about the OMG network here. So we haven't determined what this block time is going to be yet in Plasma, but it's going to be very, very short. So I think from a user's point of view, it will seem that the payment is instantaneous. We certainly don't need to wait for 10 minutes, for example, for a transaction to be confirmed on the Plasma chain.
Should we switch gears a little bit? I think we have time for one more question. Right? Marketing's giving me the nod. So we'll switch gears a little bit and pick a question that is more loosely. So the final questions that we'll take today is, what is a normal day like in OmiseGO? So the three of us will go around, and it's very different. It's a very different for different people working at OmiseGO, and I think I feel very lucky to be a part of it, and I feel very lucky to have my role, because for me, I spend both times working with the developers as well as the business and strategy teams, and our teams are distributed all over the place. Jeremy's in Sydney currently, and Kevin is in San Francisco. We also have a team in Warsaw and Tokyo, in Bangkok, and in several other places. So normal day is not really normal, but some days I have conference calls from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And there's a lot of context switching, but it keeps us all very excited. Everyone on the team is super smart, like really fun to work with. And it's been very cool to see, since I was one of the earlier joiners of OmiseGO, to see how the team has grown. And even with the geographic dispersion and also the various areas people were working with, we managed to have a lot of fun with each other. And I think we do a very good job communicating across the team. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I have a lot of fun in my job. Do you guys want to jump in?
Yeah, same here. There's no such thing as a normal day, but this is like a dream job. The work time is flexible as long as you get your stuff done. It's very cross-disciplinary. Like in startup world, they say you're wearing multiple hats. One time you're thinking about blockchain scaling, and another moment you're thinking about business development, and another moment you're thinking about marketing. Everyone's super duper smart, and everybody really wants to help this vision succeed. So I think that's kind of been the driving force, and I really like seeing that spirit in the people's eyes that I work with.
Yeah, I can echo that. There is no normal day, and sometimes we just get messages that pop up on Slack and all sorts of times, and I think it's to what the guys said about everyone's really motivated about our mission, because we don't feel that there's like borders in geography. We don't feel there's borders in time. Like we all work together. We're really flexible and understand about how everyone else works in a different way. Like there's different cultures involved as well, and I think we're all really tolerant about that. And I felt really welcomed when I joined OmiseGO, and it's been wonderful so far.
Another perk is that June will teach you to skateboard.
Yes.
And another plug, we're also hiring for multiple roles. You can find the link to the jobs page in the description box below as well. So is that it for questions, Vansa?
That's all that marketing is handing me. Yeah, I think so.
All right. Okay, I guess that concludes our very first town hall.
Yeah. Once again, I was going to say thank you for everyone for tuning in. And as we mentioned earlier, this will be a more regular occurring event. And yeah, I think we look forward to further engagement. And also next town hall, we'll also be doing a Q&A. So if you have any other questions, feel free to add it there.
In the meantime, follow our Twitter, subscribe to our subreddit, and then when the new website comes out, go there and sign up, and then be a part of our community.
Thank you.
Everyone. Stopping broadcast now.